Hi, my name's Paul Callens. I'm your host of What's Up with the Sun. What's Up with the Sun? Welcome to episode 4 of What's Up with the Sun. Alright, episode 1 I laid out a brief overview that we're due for a huge potential global blackout somewhere around December 21st, 2012, and this is modern science speaking. Then in episode 2 we looked at a short movie that I made based on a very strange experience. Now of course I fictionalized the ending to make a point and to set up actually a feature-length film that I've written. But right now we're just looking at this true story in the middle of that. And that was a starting point for me to start to look at the sun a little bit differently and the information that we're receiving about it. Now it seems that there's more openness going on, but it's buried in the back of the news. So what I'm trying to do with this webcast is cut through all the crazy crap about 2012 and get to the bottom line of what we should be taking seriously, and to actually try to eliminate some of the fear. I know it sounds very fearful that we could have a global blackout that may in fact last years in some parts of the earth, depending on how well people are prepared and how seriously they've taken it. Now, why haven't we heard about this yet? Well, look at the situation in the world right now. Global leaders are trying desperately to get normalcy back on track, trying to avert this economic collapse and all the spiraling issues around that. Frankly, they can't deal with people suddenly giving up their jobs and not paying their debt because they've realized, hey, I better do what I want to do for the next couple of years because then it's going to be over. It doesn't have to be over, but quite frankly, a lot of people could lose their lives if we're not prepared. Think about how dependent we are. Now, like I said, I'm not just making this up. I'm quoting you now from a story that ran just a couple months ago. U.S. must take space storm threats seriously, experts warn. Space weather could pose serious problems here on Earth in the coming years. The chief of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, said Saturday, February 19, 2011. A severe solar storm has the potential to take down telecommunications and power grids, and the country needs to work on being better prepared, said NOAA Administrator Jane Lubchenco. Many things we take for granted today are so much more prone to the effects of space weather than was the case during the last solar maximum. The sun is more like a Wi-Fi sending a very sophisticated signal. Now, if you were to observe that with certain spectrum photography, a Wi-Fi in the corner of the room, it might look like a fireball in the corner of the room, but it's not a fireball. Yes, it creates heat here on Earth, in the same way that a microwave creates heat. It excites the molecules of our atmosphere. By the way, it also penetrates the Earth, exciting the molecules inside, keeping that molten core molten. There's a reason why there's increased geological activity along with increased solar activity, along with weather changes. It's no coincidence. The sun is not just a fireball in the sky, it's affecting the Earth and exciting us humans. Look at all the changes in our culture and society right now all over the world. There's a lot of solar excitement going on here. A huge solar flares jam radio satellite signals. That's from NASA. Talking about an event that happened, an X-class flare. X-class flares are the most powerful of all solar events that can trigger radio blackouts and long-lasting radiation storms, disturbing telecommunications and electric grids, NASA said. Now, this was a few months ago this event occurred. A few months later, or just a month ago, I saw an article from NASA where the scientists were very frustrated, expressing their frustration with the federal government for not taking seriously their warnings that we're due for this blackout around 2012. Now, we've heard from the NOAA director only recently saying that in fact this event is likely to occur. So we finally have some federal recognition, but again, it's buried in the back of the news and we're not taking it seriously. So what I hope to do in laying out these next 12 segments is to lay out a thesis, if you will, that this is something that really is happening that we should take seriously. Looking at how ancient scientific predictions and modern science and current events are coming together over the topic of a huge, massive solar tsunami of charged particles hitting the Earth somewhere around December 21st, 2012. So, if you stick with this webcast, you can subscribe if you look down there on your screen. You can also interact and send comments, and look further below and you can see links to the articles I'm quoting here. And see for yourself and do your own research, and hopefully you'll communicate with me and we'll dialogue on this. Because the more people that know about this, the more that we can be prepared, and that's the good news. We can be prepared. It was only less than 100 years ago that we even had power. So we need to be able to have hand pumps for our water. I mean, think about all the things that are going to be affected if we lose all our power. Eventually the distribution of everything that we take for granted is going to dry up. If we are not able to pump our own water with our own hands, if we're not able to pump fuel into our cars, if we're not able to distribute these things, you better have a lot of supplies on hand. But more importantly, we've got to get the governments of the world, the leaders of the world, to take this seriously. Okay, when we talk about 2012, people are up to here with this fear-based kind of all this hoopla about the Mayan calendar predictions and the argument of, did they really say it's the end of the world? No, they didn't say it's the end of the world. But the end of the world as we know it will occur when there's no more power. So think about it, and think about how we can be prepared. For me, it's a call to go back to the garden, grow your own food, live off the land, learn to be self-sufficient, and create a community of people around you that want to do this. So in the course of this webcast, I'm going to lay out these arguments of why I think you should take what I'm saying seriously. I'm really not just making this up. Also, what you can do about it, and how you can prepare not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. This is going to be a very traumatic experience if you're not ready, but it could be a beautiful experience. You see, in the Mayan calendar that predicts this end date, that also harmonizes with predictions of cultures around the world, including the Bible, they talk about two paths. There's a path of physical destruction, and there's also an unfolding consciousness evolution. Right now we're seeing changes happening all around us. I'm going to put forward in the next, well, I have 12 episodes outlined to lay out my basic thesis, and if there's interest and there's dialogue, I'll continue this webcast. But in the course of the next 12 webcasts, I hope to make it clear that there's a very real potential that climate change is directly related to solar changes, that social and political and human consciousness changes are related to solar activity. Basically, I'm going to put forward that the sun is not a raging H-bomb fireball in the sky. That's actually not possible, even though that's what we're taught in school. Physics can teach us that that's simply not possible. But what is very possible is that the sun is governing all life on Earth. I mean, we think we know about the sun, we don't even know how photosynthesis works. That's the interaction of the sun with plants. We don't even know really what electricity is. The most advanced electrophysicist on the highest university level can't really define what electricity is. Yet it comes from the sun. So current science has more telescopes and satellites and other instruments trying to figure out what's up with the sun than ever before. And there's a lot of information coming out, and I'm monitoring that information. I'm going to share it with you. The relationship between the Earth and the sun is very dynamic. The sun is a transmitter and a receiver. It's a very sophisticated instrument. It's an organic machine, if you will. Think of it as a giant Wi-Fi in the sky. It's sending the signals and receiving the signals back and forth between all life on Earth, and that includes us. There's a lot of changes going on, and there's something up with the sun. So I hope you'll stay tuned, and please let me know what you think. And please push the little like button, and also tell your friends on Facebook, and email this to your friends. We need to make a viral phenomenon occur that's going to challenge world leaders to deal with this. We can store water and can beans all we want, but we can't shut down the nuclear facilities. You see, not only when the blackout occurs is it going to just knock out power, it's going to jiggle the Earth. There's an electromagnetic core in the center of the Earth that creates a huge bar magnet that determines our electromagnetic poles. When the poles on the Sun flip in this massive supercycle around about December 21st, 2012, they're going to cause this huge iron ore bar magnet, if you will, in the center of our Earth to shift. And our electromagnetic poles are going to shift. And when that does, there's going to be massive aurora borealises crossing the sky. The entire world is going to see it. Every corner of the Earth is going to see aurora borealises, and it's going to be frying our electronics. Meanwhile, it's going to be shifting the inner core of the Earth. And if you've ever shifted a fan, an electric fan, while it's moving from one direction to the other, let's say you meant to turn it faster or slower, on or off, but you hit the directional switch, what happens? It shakes, it vibrates, it jiggles, and then it settles out after it's changed direction. So we're in for earthquakes, tsunamis. It's already happening. Weather changes. The ancient Masonic orders, the Freemasons, goes back to the times of the Egyptians. They've been handing down the knowledge that the sun is neither hot nor cold, and that the sun governs weather on Earth. Ben Franklin knew this. It was the core of his Poor Richard's Almanac weather predictions. Only recently has modern science backed away and said, oh, there's no real relationship between the sun and weather. Well, that's about the same time that modern science backed off and took the position that there can't possibly be cold fusion, and that the sun is just a big fireball in the sky. So I hope that you'll keep an open mind. As I pointed out earlier, the sun's gone down behind me, but when you look out across these mountains, across Lake Chapala, in the far distance you can see the Colima volcano, one of the most active volcanoes on the Earth. On a clear day you can see this. When it's cloudy, it's still there. So I hope to ask you to keep an open mind. Eisenhower's message speaks for itself. I mean, that's actually gives credibility to everything I'm saying here. I would imagine that if I were to come upon this on YouTube, I would think this guy, me, is a crazy nut. But when you put it in perspective of Eisenhower, the guy that helped create black secrecy in order to develop the atomic bomb in World War II, which he led as the general of the, you know, this guy is as deeply involved in Pentagon secrecy as anybody can be, and in the final days of his presidency, he warned the American public that the Pentagon was out of control, the military-industrial complex was out of control, that science was going to be censored and controlled for the sake of people profiting. Okay, it's time to give all that up. The 2012 prophecies are one way that we think about 2012. People are going to be talking a lot about 2012 in terms of presidential politics very soon. We need to make this a campaign issue in the United States. What are we going to do about repealing the laws that allow black secrecy to exist so that we can wake up in time to deal with the coming 2012-13 blackout? You may not be able to see what I'm talking about right now. Please continue to watch these webcasts. Hit the subscribe button and you'll find out when the next posts occur. And please let me know what you think. Thank you. Okay, I'm going on too long. It's got